At 1:17 in the morning, Janelle Ortiz stood in a budget hotel lobby wearing damp socks and holding a grocery bag of essentials. Water from the apartment above theirs had come through the ceiling less than an hour earlier. Part of the kitchen drywall had collapsed. The fire department had shut off the affected line, but the building manager could not tell them when the unit would be safe again. The night clerk turned the monitor toward Janelle. "I can authorize 14 nights now. You can shorten it later." Janelle looked at Noah, then at her tote. A red pocket calculator was sticking out of the side pocket. 8 years earlier, she would have opened it before answering and tried to turn an unsafe apartment into the cheaper option. This time, she left the calculator where it was. 14 is fine, she said. By the time the apartment was livable again, temporary housing, meals, laundry, local transportation, and essential replacements would cost them $5,940. They still did not know what the renter's policy might reimburse. The fear was real. It just no longer got to make every decision. That change did not come from a lottery ticket, a business sale, or one brilliant investment. It came from 6 ordinary money moves, made in an order that mattered. In 2018, Janelle was 31 and worked as a billing quality analyst for a regional electric utility in Richmond, Virginia. Her gross salary was $64,800 a year. Bills were arranged by due date, and the red calculator stayed beside a legal pad covered in neat columns. But organization was not the same as margin. Janelle had $1,050 in cash, $3,900 in a 401k, and a car worth about $9,000. Total assets, $13,950. She also had $9,450 on a credit card, an $11,700 auto loan, and $18,600 in federal student loans. Total liabilities, $39,750. Her net worth was negative $25,800. After estimated taxes, benefits, and a small retirement contribution, roughly $3,920 reached her checking account each month. Essential spending used about $3,090. That left approximately $830, as long as nothing unexpected happened. Janelle would make an extra card payment, feel responsible for 3 days, and then discover a tire with a split sidewall or a dental charge her plan did not fully cover. The expense went back onto the card. She was paying debt first and borrowing for reality second. Her progress kept reversing because every dollar was being assigned after the month had already started. Even her retirement contribution reflected the same fear. Janelle put 1% into the company's 401k. During enrollment, the screen showed that the fictional employer plan matched employee contributions dollar for dollar on the first 4%, subject to the plan's rules. She knew the option existed. She still chose 1%. 4% felt too large because she could see exactly what it would remove from her next check. The employer contribution felt distant. A smaller checking balance felt immediate. Her manager, Monique Caldwell, noticed the election while answering benefits questions. "Do you know what the plan matches?" Monique asked. Janelle did. She just did not trust the money remaining after payday. That was the invisible trap. She did not need 6 unrelated tips. She needed an order. If she attacked the credit card with every spare dollar, the next surprise could send her back into debt. If she built a large emergency fund first, the 22.9% card balance could keep compounding. If she ignored the employer match, she would give up part of the compensation available under her plan. Every move sounded responsible. Doing all of them at full speed was impossible. So Janelle stopped asking which goal mattered and started asking what each goal was supposed to protect. The first move was to find her floor. Janelle separated essential spending from everything she could pause. Housing, utilities, basic food, insurance, transportation, healthcare, and required debt payments formed the floor. In 2018, it was about $3,090 a month. Then she built a $2,000 starter buffer, enough to keep a common repair from immediately becoming new revolving debt. Starting with $1,050, she needed another $950. For a short period, she divided her margin between that buffer and the credit card. The second move was to raise her 401k contribution from 1% to 4%. The change made her take-home pay smaller. It also allowed her to receive the full match offered under her specific plan. The third move was to target the costliest revolving balance. She kept making the required payments on the auto and student loans, then directed $525 a month toward the $9,450 credit card balance at an illustrative 22.9% APR. At that pace, assuming no new charges and monthly payments as modeled, payoff would take about 23 months and include roughly $2,239 in interest. Janelle automated the payment for the morning after payday. She was no longer waiting to see what remained at the end of the month. The money received its assignment before the month got a vote. The fourth move began when the card reached zero. Instead of letting the old payment disappear into checking, she redirected it. The former $525 debt payment, combined with an existing $150 savings transfer, became $675 a month toward a larger cash reserve. As her life changed, so did her essential spending. By the time she set the final reserve target, her core monthly cost was about $3,940. She chose 4 months, or $15,760. 4 months was Janelle's target, not a universal rule. The important distinction was the job of the money. Cash was there for near-term disruption. Retirement investments were there for a long horizon. A taxable brokerage account could offer flexibility, but its value could move and a sale could have tax consequences. They were not interchangeable simply because all three appeared on a net worth page. The fifth move was to automate long-term investing after the foundation could withstand ordinary shocks. Janelle increased her retirement contribution in steps. She later added a Roth IRA while eligible and a taxable brokerage account for earlier goals, using diversified, low-cost investments suited to her time horizon and risk tolerance. There was no guaranteed return in the plan. Some statements rose. Others fell even after she had contributed. Diversification reduced concentration, it did not remove the possibility of loss. Automation reduced the chance that every contribution would require a fresh act of willpower. The sixth move happened before each raise. When Janelle received a salary increase, she committed at least half of it to future security or flexibility before the larger paycheck arrived. Depending on the year, that meant retirement contributions, an IRA contribution if eligible, or flexible investments. The rest did not have to disappear into lifestyle. It could improve her present life on purpose. That last sentence sounded simple. Janelle would need years to believe it. At first, the 6 moves were not impressive. Her checking account still appeared ordinary. She drove the same car and worked in the same office. But behind each payday, the order had changed. Small shocks met cash. Employer plan contributions happened through payroll. Expensive revolving debt moved toward zero. The old debt payment was waiting to become savings. Long-term money was invested on schedule. Raises received instructions before convenience could absorb them. The system did not make Janelle rich. It made progress harder to reverse. The first test arrived in 2020, while the credit card was still being paid down. Janelle's laptop had been freezing for months. One Tuesday night, the screen went black during a video call and never came back. The repair estimate was high enough that replacing it made more sense. The model she needed cost $840. She sat at the kitchen table with the red calculator and felt the old sequence returning. Pay the card. Put the laptop on the card. Promise to fix both next month. Instead, she transferred $840 from the starter buffer. The purchase delayed her payoff schedule by about a month because she replenished part of the cash before resuming the full attack on debt. On paper, that was not the fastest possible path to the lowest interest cost. In real life, the card balance did not grow. That was the proof. The buffer had not competed with the debt payoff. It had protected the payoff from an ordinary emergency. Janelle had taken a financial hit without sending herself backward to the exact place she had started. Nothing about the moment looked like wealth. A laptop broke. Cash left the account. Her net worth barely seemed to move. But the next payday arrived, and the ladder kept operating. The card eventually reached zero. The old payment became the $675 reserve transfer. Her retirement contribution rose in measured steps. Her salary increased without doubling, and no inheritance or lucky stock pick changed the story. By 2023, the numbers that once felt impossible were beginning to accumulate. Janelle's illustrative net worth had reached about $74,920. Her revolving card balance was zero. Her reserve was on schedule. Every major target she and Noah had discussed was moving in the right direction. Then Noah suggested a weekend away. The total cost would be about $620. Janelle opened the calculator. And for the first time, the problem was not that her system had failed. The problem was that it had worked, so why could she still not give herself permission to say yes? Janelle did not say no to the trip immediately. She priced the hotel again. She checked the gas estimate, added 2 restaurant meals, removed one, and opened a second tab to see what $620 might become if it stayed invested for 25 years. Noah watched from across the kitchen table. He was not asking for a luxury vacation. He had found a quiet 2-night stay within driving distance, after the school concert season ended. The $620 included the room, gas, food, and a little room for something unplanned. Their bills were covered. The credit card was at zero. The reserve transfer was on schedule. Janelle's retirement contribution would still happen. The trip did not threaten the plan. But Janelle kept trying to prove that the trip improved it. "We could do it next spring," she said. Noah nodded, but he did not close the laptop. When does the plan become a life? The question made Janelle defensive because it sounded unfair. The plan was the reason she no longer woke up calculating how many days remained until payday. It was the reason an $840 laptop had not become another year of credit card interest. It was building choices they had never had. Noah agreed with all of that. He was not asking her to stop saving. He was asking whether every shared experience would have to produce a measurable return before she allowed it. Janelle turned the red calculator over in her hand. For years, it had helped her tell the truth about money. Now she was using it to ask permission for decisions the numbers had already approved. That was the midpoint she had not expected. Her original problem had been a lack of margin. She had built margin. But the behavior that protected her during scarcity had survived after the immediate danger changed. The system had removed panic from the math. Janelle had not removed panic from the rules. And if every raise, every extra dollar, and every free weekend existed only to improve a future balance, then financial discipline could become another way of postponing her life. Janelle and Noah did not solve that tension by abandoning the sixth move. They made it more complete. Before the next raise reached checking, Janelle still assigned at least half of the increase to future security or flexibility. Some years that meant a higher 401k contribution. In others, it meant an IRA contribution, if eligible, or automatic deposits to the taxable brokerage account. But the remaining portion was no longer treated as money without a job. They created a planned life account for travel, music, meals with friends, and time together. It was not a license to spend every raise. It was a boundary against letting the future consume every improvement in the present. The distinction mattered. Lifestyle inflation happens when recurring costs expand without a deliberate decision and make future flexibility harder. That does not mean every improvement in quality of life is a mistake. The problem is not that life gets better. The problem is when each larger paycheck quietly becomes a larger set of obligations. Janelle and Noah kept fixed commitments modest. They funded the future first. Then they allowed part of the remaining increase to serve a life they were already living. The next time they planned the weekend away, the money was waiting. Janelle packed the red calculator in the front pocket of her tote out of habit. At dinner, she noticed it beside her wallet. She never opened it. The trip did not damage their reserve. It did not interrupt payroll contributions. It did not create a card balance. It also did not need to become a perfect memory to justify the cost. It rained Saturday afternoon. One restaurant was disappointing. Noah forgot the phone charger. They still came home glad they had gone. That was the human correction to the 6-move system. Money needed assignments, but not every assignment had to maximize money. By early 2026, Janelle's salary had reached $84,600. Her cash reserve was $15,760. Her 401k balance was approximately $112,840. Her Roth IRA held about $32,600, and the taxable brokerage account about $29,400. Her vehicle was worth roughly $8,900. Total assets were about $199,500. With $10,650 remaining on the student loan, her illustrative net worth was $188,850. That number was not cash. It included investments that could rise or fall, retirement money with rules and tax consequences, and a vehicle she still needed. What mattered next was not the size of the net worth number. It was whether the 6 moves could protect a real decision when life stopped asking politely. In March 2026, a supply line in the apartment above Janelle and Noah burst late at night. Water spread through the ceiling, down a kitchen wall, and across part of the floor. They left with medication, chargers, work clothes, and whatever else fit into 2 grocery bags. That was how Janelle reached the hotel lobby at 1:17 in the morning with damp socks and the red calculator sticking out of her tote. The clerk offered 14 nights. Janelle said yes. The next morning, she found a hotel that cost $41 less per night. It was also far enough away to turn Noah's trip to school into nearly 70 minutes each way. The old version of Janelle would have chosen it and called the extra driving discipline. Instead, she asked what the emergency reserve was supposed to protect. Not the appearance of an untouched balance. It was there to keep an urgent problem from creating expensive debt, forced investment sales, or unsafe decisions. It was there to buy time and reasonable choices. They stayed near Noah's school. Before they knew what the renter's policy might reimburse, they paid for temporary housing, meals, laundry, local transportation, and essential replacements. The total cash outlay reached $5,940. Janelle's reserve fell from $15,760 to $9,820. That reduction did not feel good. An emergency fund does not make an emergency free. It turned some of the damage into a temporary decline in cash instead of a new revolving balance, additional interest, or a panic sale. Janelle did not put the hotel on a card she could not pay. She did not pull money from the 401k. She did not sell investments during a stressful week simply because the brokerage balance appeared on the same net worth screen. Her automatic long-term contributions continued. When the apartment was livable again, the $675 monthly reserve transfer resumed its old assignment. Without assuming any insurance reimbursement, and if cash flow stayed the same, the $5,940 gap could be rebuilt in about 9 months. The emergency had made her cash balance smaller. It had not reversed the system. That is what the 6 moves had actually purchased. Not immunity from bad nights. Not a guarantee that every expense would be manageable. They had reduced the number of decisions that panic, debt, and an immediate cash shortage could make for her. 9 months later, Janelle opened the kitchen drawer looking for a pen. The red pocket calculator was underneath a stack of takeout menus. She pressed the power button. It still worked. For years, that calculator had sat on the table like an authority. It decided whether a tire could be replaced, whether an extra debt payment was responsible, and whether a weekend deserved to happen. The calculator had never been the problem. The problem was that Janelle had confused precision with permission. Now the tool had a smaller job. She used it when a calculation mattered, and she put it away when the decision had already been made by the system. The phrase, ahead of 99% of people, is not a verified percentile in Janelle's story. Her $188,850 net worth does not prove she belongs to the top 1%, and these 6 moves cannot guarantee that result for anyone else. The honest promise is quieter. Janelle knew her essential floor. She kept a starter buffer. She captured the full match available under her employer's fictional plan. She targeted costly revolving debt. She built a reserve based on her own obligations. She automated diversified investing for long-term goals. And she assigned part of each raise before lifestyle could claim all of it. None of those moves was spectacular. Their order made them powerful. They gave cash one job, investments another, and raises a direction. They made small shocks less likely to erase old progress. And when the real emergency arrived, they gave Janelle something she had once tried to calculate into existence. A choice. She took the pen, left the calculator in the drawer, and closed it. The 6 moves worked because they gave every dollar an order. They mattered because, one night, that order gave Janelle a choice. And if you want to see the next trap in this system, watch what happens when every raise disappears before it changes your life.